The opinions expressed in this program reflect only those of the participants and are not necessarily those of the sponsors, management, or staff of WTBQ Radio or FST Broadcasting Corporation.
WTBQ.
Hey, good morning and happy Friday in the beautiful Hudson Valley. Welcome to Travel, Adventure, and Wellness. I am your host, Brenda Otto with Sunray Travel. So for our new listeners joining us today here on Travel, Adventure, and Wellness, what we discuss is how people going through cancer, survivors, or people with mobility issues can travel with ease. We all know someone who has been touched by cancer, and studies show that travel provides a break from cancer world. So on this show, you will hear from guests who share their journey to healing and how travel plays a pivotal role along that way. So we hope that their stories will fill you with hope, courage, and a renewed sense of possibility. So today, I'm really excited. My co-host, Julie Bach, CEO of Cancer Wellness Travel, is back after traveling and training wellness facilities. Julie is actually the voice of vision and wisdom in health coaching individuals with cancer. So hey, Julie, welcome back.
Hey, Brenda. I'm so excited to be home, and I'm so excited for our show today.
Well, listen, I know that you have a colleague, a special colleague, that we've been talking about having him on the show for a while, and I'd love for you to just introduce him to our listeners.
Yeah, well, first of all, we have Nicolas Ronco, and this is a first for us. He is calling in from Paris in a houseboat on the Seine River. So I don't know how else to introduce except that he is the CEO of Let's Look Beyond Consulting. He has been a wellness pioneer in many areas, and today to share the importance, as we've talked about before, mindset, movement, psychedelics. Yep, we're bringing that forward today, and the power of just friendships and your network. So, Nico, let's just get an introduction to your journey so far and what's been happening with you.
So first of all, very happy to be with you, Julie and Brenda. I love your show. I think it's very useful. In terms of my journey, I've had quite a journey. I was born in Tunisia, lived in Paris, and then lived 30 years in New York, became a citizen of beautiful US of A, and opened a first sleep center in New York City called, our tagline was, "The city that never sleeps needs a nap." So it was really focused on sleep, focused on recovery, which is a very important pillar of health. And in 2017, I was diagnosed with prostate cancer. So it was quite ironic for a health nut to get this kind of diagnosis, but I guess I'm not the only one.
Well, you're not the only one, and this is what's helpful for our listeners. As Brenda said, we all know someone, right? And even if we're in the wellness industry, doesn't mean we're immune, and even if you're royalty in the UK, doesn't mean you're immune. So tell us a little bit about how travel, let's just start there. I know you've traveled since you were diagnosed with cancer. So where did you go to, and what role does travel play in your life?
So travel has always been part of my life, has been essential to my life, actually. It's always been a way for me to explore the world and explore myself through travel. I think this is the real reason why people travel. It's not just to explore new culture or country or cuisine or anything like that, but it's really to explore themselves, to explore the way they react to these external stimuli. Sometimes travel can be very challenging, sometimes it can be very pleasant, and how you react to it really gives you a lot of insight on yourself, and it forms you, it informs you, and it forms you at the same time. My first trip after my surgery, because I had surgery in 2018, was actually to go to Sedona. My wife had organized my birthday over there, and it was incredible to be in a vortex while recovering from prostate surgery. And the surgery, even though it did go well, the aftermath of the surgery did not go well, and I had a lot of complications. I had something called a lymphocele which was basically due to your lymph freely circulating within your legs as a result of the surgery, and more surgeries after that. So I went through 2 months of hell, and after that first trip in Sedona, everything went fine.
Wow. So you came all the way here to Sedona. You're saying Sedona in the U.S., right? Yes? So that's great.
Yeah, he was living in the United States
Okay,
when
at
he
the
was
time.
I was
diagnosed.
living in New York. I
He was in New York.
Wow. Okay. So that whole process was what? How long did you have? There was that process for you? Months, years?
Between what and what?
Well, I mean, when you were
diagnosis
when you were in Sedona for treatment, how long were you in Sedona for treatment?
No,
Oh,
he
I
was
was not
in
in
he was in
Sedona
New
for-
York.
Oh,
Go ahead.
sorry.
I was in New York. At Memorial Sloan Kettering.
Okay.
I had an amazing oncologist over there, Dr. Howard Scher, who was really kind of a lifesaver for me. And then post-surgery, I went to Sedona. That was
Okay.
my first travel.
Okay,
on
that's
vacation.
okay.
I go there.
That's where I kind of got that confused. So and what was the experience like while you were in Sedona? Was it like, did you feel like a relaxed, or like a weight came off your shoulders? What was the experience like?
Yeah, I think, post-surgery, I went through 4 more surgical procedures to try to deal with that lymphocell.
Okay.
And I almost died in the hospital 3 times due to hospital-based infections. So the cancer apparently was not going to kill me, but it was the treatment from the cancer that almost killed me. And when I went to Sedona, I was barely recovered from that.
Mm-hmm.
But I felt I really had to do this trip because, again, traveling was a way for me to feel alive. And so as a result of that, as soon as I got there, and specifically in Sedona, where the energy is so awesome, I was able to walk. In New York, I could barely walk like 1 mile without, post-surgery, without feeling like really exhausted and in pain. And in Sedona, I could walk 5 miles and feel amazing. So I'm not really sure what happened, but something energetically definitely, did it.
Well, maybe just being in Sedona, we know Sedona is just a beautiful part of this country. And also, knowing that you kind of were getting out of the environment that you were in, maybe that was another thing that helped you, get out and be active, which sounds like that activity really, helped move your movement, as you say, right? To move around and get your legs going and get your body going.
Absolutely, Brenda. You're totally right. I mean, there's nothing that makes you feel more sick as being in a hospital room.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, to me, and I have tremendous respect for doctors, tremendous respect for nurses. They work extremely hard in a very difficult environment. But hospitals are not healing places. They wake you up all the time. They poke you all the time. They test you all the time. You could be sharing a room with someone who's going through tremendous pain. And as a result of that, you feel pretty crappy in a hospital bed. And so this traveling thing makes you feel normal again and alive again. And I think this is really where my healing happened while I was traveling.
I love that because really what you're talking about is mindset, right? And you have a choice on mindset. And for you, you also changed your surrounding and your environment to support a change in mindset.
Right. And
exactly. The change of mindset is absolutely key.
Right. Okay, so guys, we're going to take a really brief break right now, and we'll be right back with Julie Bach and Nick's Ronco from Paris on his boat. So all good things. Come join us in just a few moments. We'll be right back.
Brenda Otto of Sunray Travel promises you more than a trip. She builds you a world-class adventure. Brenda customizes travel for those going through or recovering from cancer and their families and friends. Contact Brenda by visiting sunray-travel.com. Whether local, in your state, or anywhere in the USA, overseas, or to a beachy island, start your itinerary now by going to sunray-travel.com and live your dreams.
WTBQ.
Okay, so we're back with Travel, Adventure, and Wellness. I'm Brenda Otto with Sunray Travel. My co-host Julie Bach is here today with us, and we have a guest. Nicolas Ronco is joining us all the way from Paris on his boat. So I'm a little jealous because, it's a beautiful day here in the Hudson Valley, and being on a boat would be great. But anyway, Nicolas is going to talk to us, and he's sharing his story about going through his cancer and his journeys to recovery through travel. So welcome back, and let's kind of keep going here about your journey through recovery through travel.
Yeah, for those listeners that are just joining us, but where we just left off was on mindset and shifting the mindset from being, in a hospital or visualizing yourself as the sick person. And what Nico's done is he's really, about travel, about changing the environment with safety, and really to foster a more growth-oriented mindset, a more positive and oriented toward living. So we just talked about his trip to Sedona, and I know you took a few more trips, so maybe help connect some dots around the world for us and why you traveled to help our listeners learn.
Sure. So as we were saying earlier, I had the surgery in February of 2018, went to Sedona at the end of April 2018, so like 2 months later. Felt much better after traveling, felt alive again, felt kind of normal again, even though I was in pain from complication from the surgery. And then, basically worked at my, developing my sleep centers, in New York, in Brazil, in Puerto Rico. And I learned exactly a year after the surgery that I had a recurrence. The cancer was back. So in March of 2019, cancer came back. This is when I decided to sell my company because I realized that surviving or curing cancer was a full-time job. And I couldn't do any of these two things half-half. So sold the company, continued to work as a consultant, went on trips to San Francisco for work. And that's the interesting part, actually. I was consulting for Intel at the time, and I did not enjoy my consulting gig for them. And I got sick when I came back from that trip and ended up in the hospital again. So traveling, with the correct mindset, as you were saying earlier, Julie, is key. If you travel and it's painful and you are not liking, the mindset of your travel, it can make you sick again because you're more fragile, obviously, coming out of this experience.
That makes sense.
And then in 2021, I heard of a medical doctor in São Paulo, Brazil, that was experimenting with a new kind of immunotherapy treatment, which was not on the market yet for prostate cancer, and decided to go there for 3 months. It was rough as a treatment. It was 200 injections per day, 7 days a week. When I was asking my doctor if I could take the weekend off, he was always telling me, "Is your cancer taking the weekend off?" So I was like, "No." Okay, so full on. And it felt for 3 months like being in Groundhog Day. Like my days were melting into each other. They were like the same, and usually involving quite a bit of pain from the 200 injection I was getting. But at the end, I learned to enjoy that. It was like having a monk-like kind of life. It was full on COVID in the world and in São Paulo. The vaccine was not there yet, so it was pretty tense, to go through medical treatment during that time. But I had amazing care in Brazil. I really salute them. Their level of medical care in São Paulo is top-notch. Having, had medical care for cancer in New York, in Brazil, and in Paris. I can tell you Sao Paulo is an amazing destination for that.
You know, you're not just a global traveler.
Yeah, really.
You're also a global cancer tester of hospitals, almost, I hate to say, but
Right.
you are, kind of, aren't you?
Right. I think
Absolutely.
that, yeah, you really kind of put when you talk about mindset, I would say really you kind of really went above and beyond to find doctors or to work with doctors who really helped you. And I find that truly amazing. You were all in Brazil, of all places, but nobody thinks that you're going to get really good care there. So it's really great that you can talk about this, and so people can understand what you're going through, and maybe hopefully, inspire them as well. So, wow.
I think
What I think
that's a very
Go ahead.
Go
hon.
ahead, Nico.
yes. I think that's a very important point that you just brought up, Brenda. The way I approached my cancer was going to be like a project and an adventure at the same time. And when I was speaking to doctors, I was telling them, I'm the CEO of my own life, okay? So you guys are part of my team. And I could only work with doctors who understood this mindset that I was going to be the CEO and the whole medical team was going to be part of, the project, basically. And the project was basically to get cured or at least to not die. I heard one of your previous guests, Sally, which had said very rightly so, the third way, between being dead and being cured, there is the third way, which is, living with cancer. And I think she was absolutely correct in saying that. And so basically, when you take your life and your destiny into your own hands, it's 100% part of your healing journey.
Yeah.
I love that. I'm almost speechless, right? But I love how you say that, because as a cancer wellness coach, it really is, you summarized it so much. You are the CEO of your own journey. You get to, put together your medical team. You get to put together your other supportive healers, your relationships. That you mentioned as kind of like an ecosystem. I think when we initially spoke, you put together your own ecosystem that would support you.
Yeah.
Ecosystem is the word. When you have cancer, I really, and I help a lot of people now who are going through prostate cancer or cancer in general, and breast cancer is basically the female equivalent of prostate cancer. They're very similar. You become the CEO, you put together your team, you call that an ecosystem, and it's absolutely the right word. And then this ecosystem supports you throughout your journey. And when you find doctors like Dr. Sherritt, Sloan Kettering, who totally understood that concept, Dr. Noel in Brazil totally understood that concept, and then my doctor in France, Dr. Toledano, was perfectly willing to work with Dr. Sher on everything. They didn't have any ego, even though these guys are like top-notch in their profession, top-notch oncologists. That's the people you want to work with.
This is great
and it sounds
information.
like they supported your travel too. Yeah?
Yeah, I mean, they were supportive of whatever I was telling them within reason. It was really important to have this understanding. And these guys were so humble because they were also willing to learn from my cancer journey for their patients as well, for their other patients, and not feel like, they had to be stuck on the sofa or in a hospital room.
I think everything that you're telling us for people, I think this is really inspiring, because I think when people become first diagnosed, their body just kind of, they don't know what to do, right? And by explaining to them what you just said is putting together your own ecosystem with your doctors and your procedures and your mindset, really, I mean, to me sounds like you took this challenge that you were going through and you just made your own journey and worked really hard on it yourself as well to come back and be, what can I say, become better from all this. So recover, basically. Sorry.
Absolutely. this is when this experience, even though it's incredibly difficult, it's incredibly scary, is a blessing. At the end of the day, it is a blessing, and it makes you grow in quantum leaps in your life, and we see it with every cancer patient, even when they're kids. You see kids who have cancer; they're so much more evolved than regular kids because they have to confront something that we all have to confront at some point in our life, but we expect to be very late, and hopefully very late. And this is really, like the day that you learn, like you're on the phone with the oncologist and you post biopsy, and they said, "I'm afraid this is cancer and it's aggressive." All of a sudden, you walk around with an idea of the runway that you have in front of you. And I was 50 at the time, so I imagine my runway was 35 years. And then all of a sudden, your runway could be 5 years. And that changes completely your mindset. You start asking yourself questions that you never asked before. And that's where the blessing lies, in my opinion.
Exactly. So basically, you shifted your mindset, came up with, like you said, your ecosystem, and that was where your journey started. And, now you're recovered and you look fabulous, to be honest with you.
Thank you.
You look very good. And, I gather, like you said, that you did travel a lot, which, our audience really likes to hear about that, because a lot of times when people are first diagnosed with cancer, that's not the thing that is first on their mind, is to travel. And you saying that the traveling that you did do really did help adjust your mindset, and you felt better in some instances, by traveling. So I see Julie's got her hand up. Go ahead, Julie.
So one of the things that you just touched upon, Nico, was, well, you didn't say it quite as I would say it, is, facing mortality, facing your runway, right? Mm-hmm. And I know that you explored a little bit with a hot topic right now, not quite taboo, psychedelics. So I'd love to hear, and I'm sure our listeners are like, psychedelics, mushrooms, what's going on here? Could you share a little bit about that part of the journey and how it helped put you at ease?
Absolutely, and that's a very important part of my cancer journey, actually. I started my psychedelic journey in 2011, so way before I was diagnosed with cancer. I went to Brazil, and I did an ayahuasca retreat back in 2011. And there is obviously, for anyone who's done these kind of experiences, there is a before and an after. And my ayahuasca journey was the closest thing that I could get to a near-death experience. So as a result of that, I was freaked out about death before that. I used to be a guy, that's why I was a health nut. I was a complete hypochondriac for many years in my life. And I was wasting a lot of time and energy on that. And the cancer really allowed me to, and the psychedelics really allowed me to get to a point where I could face death with calm, because you kind of know what's behind the veil when you experiment with psychedelics. So fast forward to 2017, when I heard basically that this cancer was aggressive, the first thing that came to my mind, usually people say when you hear the word cancer diagnosis and it applies to you, you don't hear anything after that, after the word cancer, right? Because it's so traumatic. For me, I looked at my wife and I told her, I'm sorry, it's going to be super intense, but it's going to be a project and we're going to be in it together. And this is, my wife was obviously the core of my team.
Okay, so
that's the way I started with it.
So Nick, this is all great information that you're sharing. We're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to be right back. So everybody, just stay with us, as this conversation is just going to get even better. Stay with us.
Julie Bach is the Executive Director of Wellness for Cancer, therapist and educator, improving the well-being for people touched by cancer. Julie is recognized for bridging the medical world with the world of wellness and beauty. Julie trains spas, wellness centers, and resorts worldwide to accommodate those with or recovering from cancer and their families and friends. To chat with Julie or for more information, visit cancer.com.
WTBQ.
Okay, so we're back with Travel, Adventure, Wellness. I'm Brenda Otto, your host with Sunray Travel. My co-host is Julie Bach with Wellness for Cancer, and her colleague and special guest, Nick Ronco. And we were just having this great conversation about psychedelics, and we're going to just go back to that because it just started getting really interesting. So, Nick, let's go back and let's talk about this topic because it's very interesting.
Yeah, so as I was saying earlier, I started in 2011 with ayahuasca and then graduated to other kind of psychedelics like mushroom and San Pedro, all done within ceremonial or kind of medical settings. I had never experimented with psychedelics in college, so I was, not a Grateful Dead kind of fan or anything like that, so it was very new for me.
Why not?
That experience was totally new. I wish I did, but I was not living in the U.S., and France is very uptight when it comes to psychedelics. But basically, I discovered that, and it was like discovering like a new side of life. The way it specifically applied to cancer is that it gives you, and psychedelics and mushroom in particular are used for end-of-life treatment as well.
Right.
And it's very helpful for patients, when they go through fear and anger and, all normal emotion when you go through an end-of-life process. And then you realize everything is a process. And for me, really what it did is it helped me establish my mindset into being cured and being healed because it increases your ability to visualize yourself as being healthy. So I know, for example, right after my surgery, I did a mushroom psychedelic journey for like a full weekend. And I literally saw, I don't know how else to explain it, but interstellar doctors taking care of me during that time. And they told me I was going to be healed. And they told me that, despite the recurrence, everything was going to be okay. And I really trusted them. I mean, it was in my trip. I was not speaking to actual people, but it definitely felt very real during that realm. And the fact that you can project yourself as being healed and being cured is tremendously helpful in your journey.
Okay. Yeah, that's amazing. That you basically what you did is you projected that you were going to be well. And then that just goes back to mindset again. And granted, I know you were on mushrooms and whatever. And anyway, the Grateful Dead, too bad they didn't like them in France. Great band. Anyway, let's go back. But, you keep going back to that whole, the mindset of how you were. And I think that that's so important that it sounds like your positive mindset or the way that you set up your mindset is what got you through your journey of cancer.
Yes, and it's helped by the entire ecosystem. Mm-hmm. So my wife, Sana, was of tremendous help during that time. My friends, certain of my friends, not all of them show up the way you'd like them to show up. Some of them just run away from you for some reason, and some of them become like over concerned, and they start really kind of breaking your balls on a regular basis about what's going on for you. But the people who understand that they have to go with your flow are the people that you want to keep yourself around. And then again, going back to travel, the fact that if you can, obviously I could not travel when I was in the middle of treatment, but as soon as I was out of it, the first thing that I did was get on a train or on a plane. And it's, again, that projection of feeling healed, of feeling normal, and looking outside and seeing that life is happening all around you, it's a huge distraction for the tremendous distress that cancer can bring.
Well, I love a few of the things, and just want to reiterate for those listeners that are just joining us. We're speaking with Nico Ronco from his houseboat. I don't know if you own the houseboat or not, but it doesn't matter to me and Brenda because we just want to be there.
Yeah, exactly.
In Paris. And sharing, the importance of traveling. Of course, we just added a new kind of travel, didn't we? We just added psychedelic travel. And for those listeners, it is evidence-based, and many hospitals do use psychedelics for, stress and for overwhelm. And so that is kind of in the context that we're using, not necessarily going to a stadium
like I did
right. with the Grateful Dead.
Right. Well, it's not really what you're saying is, though, it's not really, it's used in a medical context for healing, not so much like, hey, let's just go, do mushrooms for the weekend, whatever. It's done, but it's done in a medical fashion to help you get through, the process of healing. So
I wanted to just shift. Go ahead, Nico.
No, I said that as a result of that, Brenda and Julie, I became myself a psychedelic facilitator. I took a 1-year course to do that with the Synthesis Institute. Actually, it's in Colorado, and I learned to lead, ceremonies and to deal with people going through this kind of journey, and it's really tremendously rewarding to be able to do that as well.
I didn't know that you did that. So you can lead retreats as a retreat facilitator, correct? And I know Portugal you're moving to. Yeah.
Yeah, mushrooms only. I wouldn't do that for ayahuasca. I don't feel capable of doing that. But mushroom, yeah, I'm totally capable.
That is actually a growing genre of doing psychedelic assisted with a medical, so it's responsible. So I didn't know that you went to the place here in Colorado. So we have a few people from Colorado listening today who have taken additional training as well. So we'll make sure to hook you up afterward. I wanted to just shift gears a minute to side effects and how you manage them. So usually sleep, and because we talked that you had sleep facilities before, let's just start on an easy one. Like, how was your sleep affected?
So I had 4 kinds of treatment, right? The first one was surgery. The second one was immunotherapy. Immunotherapy did not affect my sleep. However, then I had to move to hormonal therapy and radiation. And that totally impacted my sleep, especially the hormonal therapy. I went into full-on andropause.
Hold on 1 second. So for people that don't know what andropause is, maybe you're about to say this, it's the male equivalent of menopause. So this is some juicy stuff to be talking about right now, what andropause is. So go ahead, Nico. I just wanted to frame that.
Yeah, I was going to say I have a huge amount of sympathy for women going through menopause because I've seen what it is as a guy, and the mood swings, the sweat, the night sweat, the fact that you become incredibly emotional, your hormones are going up and down constantly, your bone mass is decreasing, your muscle mass is decreasing. You could start developing heart problems, brain fog. I mean, it's really not fun. I mean, that was to me what kind of the worst part of the treatment was immunotherapy, and I'm glad I was fortunate it was over in 6 months. I did not enjoy the 6 months. So sleep was affected, and I saw a bunch of sleep doctors during that time. I was using, having run, sleep centers in the U.S. and in Brazil. I was using my own protocols for it. But when you go through something like andropause or menopause, you need more than that. So I had to take some kind of antidepressant pills for 6 months that would really set me up for sleep. It was very small dosage. And I really don't like antidepressants, so I got out of them, in 3 months. But it did help me during that period. Sometimes you need to get the help you need to get.
What about exercise or maybe you alternated how you ate or any bedtime rituals to help our listeners just know some other things that you use to support sleep.
Very good point. I've been doing intermittent fasting since the beginning of the cancer. So for me, the way I do it is that I stop eating by 9 p.m. at night, and I don't eat anything before 1 p.m. the next day. The first thing that I do when I wake up is drink half a liter of warm water with a full teaspoon of curcuma and ginger and a little bit of salt. These three guys work great as anti-inflammatory, and they really flush your system. So you feel like, same energy level, and you feel sharper during the day intellectually. And then exercise is absolutely key. I went from going, once a week to the gym with my personal trainer to twice a week with a personal trainer and twice a week on my own. And this is essential to my mental health and physical health. And it's essential to building back your muscle mass and your bone mass. So there is no better medicine than exercising and sleep.
Actually, the studies show that for better quality of life through cancer treatment, whether it's stress, whether it's, as you said, muscle mass, even fatigue. Fatigue is not helped. Cancer-related fatigue is not helped by sleeping. It's actually helped by exercise. And so you just went full on, I believe, with your program, correct?
I went full on. I feel better now at over 50 than I felt at 35.
Wow. Well, you've got yourself kind of on a regiment right now, right? You see, you start out with this flush water and combination, right? You said you don't eat before 1 o'clock. Is that correct?
Yeah, I don't eat anything before 1 o'clock. I mean, the maximum thing I would do is maybe have blueberries because they're very low glycemic index.
Okay.
So you can have blueberries, strawberries, anything with low glycemic index is fine. But before
what are you
that,
about coffee?
Yeah.
Coffee.
I don't drink coffee.
Whoa.
I drop coffee.
Really? Wow. Well,
I drop alcohol too.
Okay. Wow. Okay. So, Julie, I don't know how you'd feel about... I know, Julie, she needs her coffee in the morning, but anyway.
I know I say it doesn't affect me, but when I look at my heart rate variability, it actually does. Yeah. I think I'm in control of caffeine, but I'm not, and I can tell when I'm irritable.
All right, guys, we're going to take a quick little break. This is our last break, so everybody stay with us. We'll be right back with Travel, Adventure, and Wellness.
Brenda Otto of Sunray Travel promises you more than a trip. She builds you a world-class adventure. Brenda customizes travel for those going through or recovering from cancer and their families and friends. Contact Brenda by visiting sunray-travel.com. Whether local, in your state, or anywhere in the USA, overseas, or to a beachy island, start your itinerary now by going to sunray-travel.com and live your dreams.
WTBQ.
Okay, so we're back with Travel, Adventure, and Wellness. I'm Brenda Otto, your host with Sunray Travel. My co-host Julie Bach with Cancer for Wellness is back with us this week. Yay, from her travels. And she has a special colleague, friend of hers with us, Nico Ronco. He is actually telling us about his journey through prostate cancer and giving us a lot of good tips on, how he manages to go through his day. Exercise is really important to get him back into his regular routine or a new routine. Maybe that's what he's got going on. And also, he also talks about how travel has really helped him with moving forward. So we're back. Julie, is there anything you want to go back to the side effects, or where do you want to go?
I would like to just touch upon for a moment physical activity, and then I would actually like to move to an undercurrent here about spirituality, because that also is a big thing within cancer.
Yeah,
So I wanted to come
for sure.
back to physical activity in that you and I discussed before. For some people it's hard to start, right? For
Right.
you just went full out. But it's almost like an addiction in a way that you feel better, so you keep doing it. Did you also have that experience of you kept feeling better, so you just kept doing more of it?
Yeah, 100%. I'm addicted to the elliptical right now. Every time I have a bad day or a bad moment, I jump for like 50 minutes on the elliptical, and I just go crazy. The first 10 minutes, I'm like, why am I here? I don't want to be here. And then after 20 minutes, you start, the endorphins start kicking out. And then when you stop, like the world seems perfect again. So it gives you this mental clarity combined with optimism, which is better than any antidepressant that I would know.
Yeah, and as a cancer health coach, for some of my clients, they can't get over the, oh my God, there's another thing to add to my to-do list. So sometimes it's just starting with some movements while you're making that cup of coffee, by the way, that I like. So I just want to touch on that too, because there are really beautiful coffee substitutes. I keep trying one to find one I like, but you have found one you like, Nico. What is it? And I know some of the ingredients, but you might want to share some of those ingredients, because that's a big issue right now in the wellness arena, is substituting coffee.
Yeah, totally. I mean, there's a lot of products on the market. Right now I'm using a French one, and it's obviously called Bonjour.
Hello.
Yeah, it's like hello, good day, good morning. And this one has cordyceps, lion mane, mushroom, and cacao. And so it's a very simple formulation. Cacao will give you a little bit of caffeine and get the whole thing to taste better. And, people, I love the taste of coffee, but I don't like the effect of coffee. I don't like the effect of caffeine. And I know decaf is very bad. It's very bad for your health because it's like super processed. So, you train your brain to get used to another taste, and you learn to enjoy it, and it's totally fine. And especially when you don't feel the ups and downs of caffeine anymore. You don't feel the fog and the crash and my heart rate variability like usually was affected by it. And now it's much better since I'm full on these kind of supplements.
Yeah, if we could, let's just move, because I know we have about, 5-6 minutes left, Brenda?
Yeah, we're good. Keep going.
Let's move over to spirituality. Now, we've talked a little bit about travel and how travel feeds your soul. It makes you feel alive. We've visited psychedelics on many different planes and levels. So I know that when you were in Brazil, you also did some Ayurveda, and you did some other things to bolster your spirituality, but maybe there's other things I don't know. So maybe just lead off with your journey through spirituality.
Yeah, my journey with spirituality started very early on, started in 97. I was actually at the Eat, Pray, Love ashram 10 years before she went there. And so my journey really started during that time. I discovered yoga during that time. And, the journey takes a lot of turns and ups and downs, and it's not an easy, feel-good kind of journey. You go through a lot of, dark night of the souls and these kind of things. But I feel that cancer really forces you to get to a quantum leap in terms of your own journey and spirituality when it comes to this. Because you have to imagine your own death. You have to imagine that you're finite. You have to really seriously consider it. And when you go through the treatment, some of them can kill you. And so, I remember every time I was going to go under, mostly surgery, I kept telling my wife, see you on the other side. And the other side could be the recovery room, or it could be the other side, So, when you do this enough, you develop that sense. It really allows you to put into practice everything that you had learned before. mindfulness, meditation, yoga, psychedelics, connecting the way you connect with people, increasing your level of empathy, understanding. Like before having cancer, I was freaked out to speak to people who had cancer because I was so afraid of putting my foot in my mouth. Like, am I going to make a gaffe? Like, what's going to happen? Now I can help people who have cancer going through that journey, and especially guys, because people think that prostate cancer is super curable and easy, and it's not. It's like breast cancer. Some of them can go super well, and treatment can be easy, and some of them can be not good, and kind of tragic. And, for women, you can lose a breast, you can lose your sense of immunity. For guys, you can become impotent, you can become incontinent. A lot of guys going through surgery then want to commit suicide after that. So I'm helping them now, giving them a new perspective, a new approach, for example, to sex, to sexual activity. When your prostate is removed, for example, to get into detail, you do not ejaculate anymore, and you become, you become very different sexually. But the really good thing is that you become more like a woman in terms of the kind of orgasm that you can have. There is always a silver lining to it. You become more tantric if people are into, tantra, and you can explore way more avenues to make love and to satisfy your partner. So that is spiritual in itself. That is a journey in itself, and it applies to both men and women.
Yeah, so I love that you brought this up. I don't know if we're allowed to talk about this kind of stuff, but hey, we're doing it.
Yeah, we are.
But, on all of the cancer conferences I've been to and all the retreat boards or online boards, it's always this issue, right, that you're talking about is about relationships and relations and sex, right? It is the number one thing that is always talked about, and it used to be the taboo subject, but it is becoming more and more open because it affects you on so many different levels. So kudos to you for really supporting men through this and through their journey, because it's not often shared.
Right. I agree.
Yeah, and it's very important because a lot of men postpone treatment because of that, because of fear of losing their sexual function. Some men say, I'd rather die. And some men actually do die because they postpone treatment. They're more afraid of becoming impotent than dying. And so it's very important it's part of the cure. It's very important to educate them and say, you don't become asexual because you have cancer. Men and women do not become asexual because we have cancer. We continue our lives, and obviously sex is part of our lives. And so we have to learn to talk about this freely. It's very important because if we don't, then people can really die.
Very true. Very true.
And I think you took a year, right, to make the decision, but then we've got 2 minutes. I'm getting a 2-minute sign, so we're going to turn it around here to a little happiness.
No, this is good. Yeah, this is good. I mean, him sharing this information about what the man side of, women, we stick together kind of when it comes to breast cancer, but with men, they don't really open up. Okay. So sharing what your experience was, and the fact that you get treatment. There are other ways to deal with intimacy than postponing a treatment. I think this is really great information that you're sharing on what your journey was like. Sorry, Julie, I just kind of cut in, but go ahead.
I was saying basically the same thing, and then to shift it around, that I know it took you some time to make the decision, Nico, but then once you went full forward into envisioning and being committed, you fully committed yourself to facing life instead of being afraid of.
Right.
100%. That's exactly that. You become more alive. For the time that you have left, you become more alive.
Wow.
Yeah.
Those are...
And travel?
Right.
Travel is just part of it. I love for you how you said that to me yesterday when we were talking, that travel makes you feel alive. So just share one of your top favorite places that you've been to that you would encourage, me and Sally, let's say, to go to.
I love Brazil, and in Brazil, I love the Lençóis. It's heaven on earth. It's like having the Sahara Desert on the ocean with lakes everywhere. It's white sand. The weather is beautiful, and it's an amazing place in the world. The Lençóis in Brazil, in the north of Brazil.
All right. Well, okay, we're going to have to come to a close here because we're pretty short on time. I want to thank you so much, Nick, for coming in and sharing this information. Is there a website or something that people, can kind of reach out to you if you want? Because you do say that you do help other men. So is there some way that people can connect with you?
Right now, I'm redoing my website, which is going to be letslookbeyond.com.
Okay, so people can look for letslookbeyond.com and, get some more insight from Nick, and I appreciate you coming on. And Julie, thank you so much. I'm glad you're back, from your travels. I know you got a lot more traveling going on, but how's your website? What is going on there? Is there a way to
My
reach you?
website's changed again.
So
it's back to the original, which is wellnessforcancer.com. So wellness for FOR cancer.
Okay. And people can reach me at sunray-travel.com. And thank you, everybody, for showing up today. We had a really great show. So for people, for anybody who's looking for dreaming of that next adventure or just simply need a dose of inspiration, be sure to tune in to Travel, Adventure, and Wellness every Friday right here on WTBQ at 11 a.m. Happy travels, everybody.